No,
That's
it's
all
all
yours,
good.
my friend.
Thank you. So, thanks to everyone who joined us last time and everyone who watched last time. Just to recap, gaslighting in general, gaslighting is a denial of someone's reality. So, it may be conscious or it may not be conscious from the perpetrator. We may come to someone and we may bring up an issue and they may deny our reality in one way or another. Now, last video, which you can go back and watch, we talked about the first 4 ways. And today we're starting off with diversion. So diversion is a very common way that someone can deny our reality or switch from what topic we are on right now onto something else. Diversion is a way to stop being held accountable in this moment and deal with it another time. But when it comes to that other time, they're not going to basically deal with it. They're going to try and divert again and again and again. Imagine you're driving on a road and you keep getting turned left. You're just going to keep getting back in the same spot you were. And there's a roadblock at every turn and they keep telling you to turn left. Eventually, you're going to come back to the same spot and you're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And unfortunately, this is a tactic used by people who don't want to take accountability, don't want to hold themselves responsible, don't want to admit, or they want to remain in denial that they have done something wrong. So some examples of diversion, you might be like, hey, I just noticed you did this. And they say something like, yeah, you know what, I did that. Yeah, that's fine. But you know what, you did that. And that was so much worse. So they basically push it back to something else that you did to make it seem like, you know, what I did wasn't so bad, but what you did was way worse. So I'm not taking responsibility. Another way would be to just completely ignore. And so you come to them and you say something like, hey, the way you spoke to me earlier wasn't very nice. And they go, what's for dinner? Or they say, yeah, my day was nice. How was yours? Or they might say, you know what? I'm dealing with a really tough time at work right now. So you can't talk to me about that, diverting it to something else because we're not going to deal with that right now. And they're signifying that it's not okay to bring this up, denying your reality. Another way would be to attack and play the victim in this circumstance. So by diverting, they'll say something like, what? So you think there's something wrong with me? Or what? You hate me? And then you'll say something like, well, you know, I don't hate you, but I don't like it when you do this. Oh, well, you bring this up all the time. And this is such a problem, you know. You have such a problem with saying this thing to me over and over and over again. And you'd be like, no, I'm just bringing up one thing and I don't want it to be like diverted to other problems. And because they're bringing in other stuff to hold against you. Another example would be to divert by just completely projecting the issue back onto you, which is by saying, no, that was your fault. No, you did that. A perfect example, I have a meme on my Instagram, and I think it's just so hilarious. The cat, you know, it's like a meme from like a TV show where the lady's like crying and she's going, and the cat's just going, I have a meme and it's like someone's going, you're the narcissist. And the cat's just going, no, you are. Because that's what they will do. They'll just be like, no, you are. No, you did that. No, everything. And they'll just be sitting there with a plain face because they're not going to ever take any responsibility that I did that. Like maybe they know, maybe they don't know, but they are not going to take responsibility.
So
it's
they're never
palmed
wrong,
off.
essentially.
Never wrong.
Even if you pointed out to them that this is creating a problem in the relationship and we need to talk about it, it's not going to happen.
Yep, you could say a perfect example of another example of diversion when I said, oh, what, so you hate me? And they're like, no, I don't hate you. It's just, you know, my friend noticed the other day when we went out for dinner that you were talking to me quite nastily. And they'll go, what, so you hate me and you're all talking behind my back and they hate me too? And you'd be like, oh, okay, I can't say anything because now your feelings are hurt in this situation. Now you think everyone hates you. Now you think everyone's out to get you. So I'm just going to pull my feelings back because I'll fawn over you now. I'll people please to make you feel like no one hates you.
Wow.
So that's denying your own feelings.
That's a way to make a person back off, is what you're saying?
Totally. It makes that other person move back and go, I'm going to walk on eggshells now because I don't know. I can't say anything because they're going to get upset at me. They're going to push it back onto me. They're going to push it back onto something else. They're going to push it onto other people and say there's something wrong with them. And now I feel isolated. And that's a bad thing, to feel isolated. Like you can't say, oh, you can't bring up that my friend thought you were nasty to me in that situation. You did it in front of me and in front of my friend.
Right.
But now I can't hold you accountable.
And that keeps,
it's dangerous. It's rocky
territory. In a relationship where they never can bring up something that makes them emotionally uncomfortable.
100%. So
it can't even be discussed.
Yeah. Next time you're like, so the example of like, let's not talk about it now. Let's talk about it another time. So then you're like, okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about it another time. You come to them and you're like, okay, so you told me we'll talk about it another time. And you're like, you have such a problem with this. Like, you've got to stop. You've got to let it go. Really, like, you got a problem. And I'm not gonna engage with this. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh crap, like I must be doing something really wrong. Yeah. Then you push back your own feelings again. You go, okay, this is wrong. I'm going to tread on eggshells even more so. I'm going to start believing now. This is going to become part of my inner critic, that every time I feel that way, their voice comes in and goes, that's wrong. You shouldn't feel that way. There's something wrong with you. So you go, okay, no, I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me, but I feel this way.
You'll let's say that's happening to me. Then I will start gaslighting myself. They don't even have to do the work anymore. I'll end 100%. Up saying, you know what? I'm just thinking wrong.
Yes.
Or I'm being mean.
Yes.
But in actuality, they're being mean.
Yeah.
Because they're setting up situations and circumstances, parameters, so they can never be questioned and held accountable. You had the next one. This is actually number 6 of the 8 that we initially were going to cover in our first couple of episodes here. The one you just did was diversion. The next one here, you had stereotyping.
Yes, this is a massive one. So stereotyping can so easily be used against us, and it's not in the ways that we think. So it's probably like the most common one that gets used against everyone at one point in their life.
Wow.
So the most common one that we'll find when we're children, probably the first one that we'll come up with, is you're too young to understand something like that. Or, you know, you're a child, so you should act and be this way. And if you're not, then there's something wrong with you. You're a child, so you shouldn't talk like this or like that. A child should only be seen and not heard. Another stereotype that I grew up in my I don't know if you have that saying in the US, but we have it massively. Children must be seen and not heard.
It's a common expression, yes.
Yeah. So it's a huge one that we grow up and we're like, okay, well, I must act this certain way because society expects that of me. So to put it on the opposite end, we can say that to old people. We can say, you're too old to do anything like that. Someone who goes to university, you know, they decide to go and study something new, and then someone goes, oh, what, you're too old to start something like that, or you're too old to start a business, what are you doing? Or you're too old to have children, or you're too old to even, you know, whatever
be
it
on
may
YouTube.
be.
Yeah, you're too old to be on YouTube.
Exactly. No. But yeah, so then there's the stereotypes around gender. So you might have heard this, all women are crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most common one that we'll hear. All women are crazy, so don't believe that woman. No one will believe you because all women are crazy. So if you go out and say that I hit you or if I abused you, well, I'm just going to say you're crazy, B-I-T-C-H, and no one's going to believe you. But it comes the opposite way as well, that women may say that about men, or, you know, there's a stereotype around men that all men are aggressive or all men are useless. I've heard that one massively in the older generation. Women, you know, older women might say, oh, don't listen to him. He's useless. He's a useless old man. He can't do anything. That's massive over here in Australia. Like, I've seen it a lot. Wow. I don't know if you've seen it. It might be a cultural thing, but I hear it a lot, and I'm like, oh, there's just a massive disrespect against, the aging population as well. But we're stereotyping them. We're saying there's a societal expectation on them to act a certain way, and we go, you can or cannot do that. So there's also stereotyping in terms of like knowledge or status. So
I haven't even thought of that. Just knowledge and status.
Yeah. So yeah, like for example, someone might come to me and say, you're studying psychology right now. You don't have a degree, so you don't have any expertise in this field. What would you know? You don't have a degree. Would you know? You're not a scientist. You haven't studied this. What would you know? You're too poor.
Oh yeah, right.
You're too poor, or maybe you're just a rich. We can use it in race. You're just a rich white person, whatever it is.
Yep.
But we can use it to box people into these narratives that are not necessarily true, because we don't know what people are about. We don't know what they've experienced. Everyone is so different. But then there's like the religious one as well. I'm religious, so I am good. Or they go to church every weekend, every Sunday, so they must be a good person. But we've seen that that's not necessarily true, especially when there's, big groups of people that can be gaslit by one leader.
Yeah.
Who can like systematically break people down. But then there's like in the parent-child relationship, and this is a massive one. So when we're talking about relationships in general, and people say, oh, my parent did this, and we've decided to go our separate ways, I don't talk to my parent. They go, oh, well, why not? You can't not talk to your parent. All parents do their best. You have to honor your parent. That's another stereotype, that we change how we feel. It's a way to deny our own reality, to change to what society expects of us. It's huge. We'll have stereotypes all around us, and it happens all the time.
I have to tell you, I just had it recently. Someone sent me something, and they were telling their story. They're not the first time I've heard it, but they were mentioning how it was horrific what has happened to them at the hands of their caregiver, their parents, and is bad. And so you never know who you may be saying something to, and it may not apply in that moment. They may not be ready. They may, as it were, seemingly never ready to engage in a certain way. We have to be mindful that everyone's story is indeed their own story. Unless we actually hear it, we may not have the full picture. So,
and to add, keep going.
Please, by all means, go ahead.
Just to add to that, it is kind of dangerous sometimes to make these assumptions on people.
Yeah.
I've mentioned to people before that I'm not in contact with my mother, and it's different with the different generations. Like older generation is like, whoa, that is really bad. Like your mom is your everything, and blah blah blah. And until they understand the experience, like it feels uncomfortable to have to explain to someone that what you have experienced with this person, that you have experienced such abuse to the point that you don't want to be around them anymore. It's uncomfortable to have to explain that to them, to justify the experience, to have them validate that it's okay. So it's actually dangerous for people to make these assumptions before knowing the backstory. If someone's saying, I don't spend time with my parent, or I've decided to separate myself from this person, there's probably a good reason. Yeah. And that's the end of the story.
We don't know, as in the case I just touched on, years of therapy. People are going through a number of things to try to get to some semblance where they can find a measure of peace and forgiveness. And they're trying a number of things, and we may speak out of turn. But it's just, it's a good point. Stereotyping. When I saw that on your list, I was like, man, I can't wait to see what that is. I wasn't going to cheat, by the way, and go check it out before you did the show, 'cause I wanted you to tell me.
Thank you.
Now, a number of people, by the way, your video, the first episode, is getting a lot of watch time. A lot of people are taking a look at it and spending time on it. So hopefully they will do the same. Some of the same people that were watching the first episode reached out to me, and they wanted to know about the last two items of the list of 8, DARVO and reactive abuse. So we're going to do DARVO right now. So for those of you who will be watching this back later, I know who you are, because you're at work right now and you're going to watch it back later. Here we go. Sarah's going to talk about the one you were waiting to hear her talk about, which is DARVO, DARVO. Be my guest.
So it's a really easy formula to remember, especially when we're brought into an experience where we're experiencing gaslighting and we're like, we get into fight or flight. Mm-hmm. So when we experience something that's quite shocking, our emotions will increase and our intelligence decreases. We're unable to be logical, and our emotions are so high that they will affect us in such a way that we sometimes cannot control them. So when we can remember something so simple as DARVO, we can kind of bring ourselves back down to the ground and go, okay, I can see what's happening. It's a really good formula to remember. So D means deny. A means attack. R means reverse. And O means offender. So reverse, RV, and offender. So what we're doing is deny, attack, reverse, offender. And that is what the formula is for an abuser who is attacking you. So when we can remember that that is their formula, what they're going to do first is deny our reality. They're going to turn it back on us by attacking us, by gaslighting us in some way, by using one of these methods that I've mentioned. So they might project it back onto us. They might divert, they might deny, they might withhold, they might counterattack. All of these things might happen in one go. Mm-hmm. And then they reverse offender, which means that they will turn it back onto you and make you feel like you were the problem. Wow. It's exactly how gaslighting works in a nutshell. So if we remember that I'm in a situation where I've noticed they've denied, they've attacked, and now they're reversing offender, I can tick all 3 boxes. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to notice that there's something not quite right going on here. And there is I'm telling you right now, there's absolutely no way when someone does that they're going to see your point of view. It's very important to get out of that situation right now.
Is it possible? So are they then in survival attack mode then? So there's no way to reason with them?
Yeah. And not to, give them the benefit of the doubt in any way, because abusers know that they're abusive. When they have done it over and over again and they've had people say, you do this to me, they are conscious of it. They know it.
If somebody does that to me, I'm not the first person to tell them, you're doing this. They've become experts at doing this that you're talking about.
Definitely. Yep. And they're looking for people who are going to keep taking it. And so they're in complete denial.
I'm so sorry. You got to repeat that one, because I need to slice that out and have a button. I say that. Say that one more time, please.
They're looking for people who are going to keep taking it. They don't like it when they come up to someone who is going to hold them accountable. They're going to do anything to lash out at the integrity of this person that's holding them accountable. They will do anything to make this person look bad, to make them break down, to make them feel vulnerable, to make them walk on eggshells, to make them zip. Because I'm showing you that this is not going to happen. I will break you down. And I'll throw you away. I will get my flying monkeys to break you down too. They're threatening. So they know absolutely what they're doing. And when you ask them, like, are you aware? And if they're completely honest, they'll say, no, I don't have any empathy for what I'm doing, when they're completely honest about it. So what we have to do is go, okay, they're exhibiting signs that they're not having any empathy. They're exhibiting signs that they don't have any ability to self-reflect or look at their behavior. They don't know how they're affecting me. They cannot see how they're affecting me. This is a repeated pattern of deny, attack, reverse offender. I always end up feeling like I am the one who is in the wrong. I end up feeling like I am the one who's the problem in the end. And when it comes to it, they might even use the same tactic. I might say, you know what, every time I bring this up, you keep saying this. And then they go, yeah, because every time I say this, you say that. It's like, oh my God, we can't get anywhere here.
Like you're in a schoolyard all of a sudden. It's like tit for tat, like seriously tit for tat.
Yeah. So you'll notice the cyclical nature.
I'm sorry, you were going to say what?
Yeah, you'll just notice the cyclical nature. It just goes round in circles. You'll feel like you are going insane. You'll be like, my head is about to explode. I seriously feel like nothing is quite right here. You need to get out of that situation. You literally need to walk out of that room, out of that house. Do not come back until you feel better.
Take your leave and wait till another time, or just
or start planning your exit route for that situation to go no contact or low contact with this person.
And they're probably, an individual doing this, they're accustomed to people leaving them then.
Yes. And that is why they will try so hard to hold everything as it is. They'll be like, you'll say, look, I can see how you're acting. And they're like, oh God, someone's holding me accountable. And they're like, okay, I have to either throw this person out or consume them with power. So they'll go, okay, no, it was all you, you. And you need to now tread on eggshells. Or that person will be like, no, I can see you're gaslighting me and you're an abuser and what you're doing is wrong. They're like, okay, swish, flick, and goodbye. Now I'm going to gather my army of people who do believe that I'm a good person, who do fawn over me and do everything that I want, because that then internally validates how amazing I am. And then they'll tell that group of people, this person's so bad. And by the way, you shouldn't like them. And they were so horrible. And look at all the things they did to me. And that whole group of people will hate you too, because that validates that feeling for that person that they were not in the wrong. But is that true validation? No way. It's fake.
Yeah. Because
it's very fake.
Because this is a, what did you call it? Let me see. Look at my notes here. My notes, it's a repeated pattern is what you mentioned. We are not then responsible to try to end that pattern or disrupt that pattern, but you're saying to just walk away, let them keep their pattern. They just can't do it with you or those that you love.
Yeah, so there's a very limited amount of people who exhibit signs like this, who will turn around, look at their behavior and be willing to shift and change it. I have come across people who have been like that, who have been willing to look at their behavior because they were reacting from a wounded place. Okay. And they've realized how much that woundedness has affected their life and all of their relationships. But then there's the other spectrum where they're like, no, I'm holding on to this victimhood of all the hard times that I've had to experience. And no one is ever going to tell me that I've done things wrong. Complete narcissism. So when they're like, no one is ever going to tell me I've done things wrong, they truly believe that they've done everything right to get to where they are. So can anybody ever convince them that they've taken a wrong path or made a wrong decision? It's really hard. So in that situation, we have to look at it from the point of view that are we in a situation with someone who has given us signs that they are willing to go to therapy, willing to look at their behavior and go, oh, I see that I did that and I'm sorry, and then change? Are they changing their behavior? And someone told me this a long time ago and I held on to it. Apologies mean nothing. Words are nothing until they change their behavior. Until you see that they go, okay, I'm sorry, I see what I've done. And then the next time you come into that situation, you can see that they are at the very least, trying to change their response. Then there's an ability to change. But if you know, and I've said this before to people on my clients and on my Instagram, if you know that every time you come to this person, they're going to react in a predictable way, there's no way we're going to change their response. We know how they're going to act. We know exactly what they're going to say. We know that it's going to be deny, attack, reverse, offender, like every single time. And we can actually go, okay, I'm going to say this to them, or they'll say that. I'm going to say this to them, they'll say that. I'm going to try this, they'll do that. There is no way. We know that. And what we can do is self-sabotage, self-gaslight, and go, maybe I'll try something more. Maybe I'll be a bit better. Maybe I'll try and be better. Maybe I'll be perfect eventually. And they will eventually see me or eventually change or whatever it is. If it's like 3 times you're out, okay, like don't take it further than that. Don't allow them to keep convincing you that there's something wrong with you when you feel that that's not true, that there's a real problem with how they're interacting with you.
The convincing part that there's something wrong with, it's happening to me. Someone's letting me know you're not measuring up. Something's wrong with you. If I continue to buy into that, they're going to continue to get worse. Definitely.
It will get to the point where they will start to isolate you from your family and your friends and say, look, you're worthless. Like, I keep telling you this. And like, you know, I don't even think I can trust you anymore to go out with your friends and family because you're just going to say bad things about me. Oh, and by the way, that friend of yours says bad things about me to you, so you can't hang out with them anymore. And by the way, I can't trust you to even go out to dinner with your friends because you're going to turn them all against me. So you can't do that unless I'm there. Or you can't even go to the gym now because, you know, I can't even trust what you do when you go out when you're not with me. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And parents do this to their children too when they get to adult age. I've seen it a lot.
I have to say, this has been truly enlightening to hear you break a number of these things down. We have a reactive abuse is the next thing that we're going to look at. We just covered 3 of the 4, which is a total of 8 altogether. We did 4 in the first episode. This is the second episode of Gaslighting 101 with Sarah De Silva here on Narc Abuse TV Network. Sarah looked at and shed light on diversion, stereotyping, and DARVO. Why are we going over this information? Why is this show or this channel existing? Is because the audience that comes to look at these shows are predominantly, based upon the analytics, between the ages of 13 and 45. A number of them are beginners in learning about narcissistic abuse, dealing with mental health and relationships and recovery. This show may put some of you in a different position if you already know this information, but we're asking you to join this bandwagon of helping those of the next generation and others who don't know and are just beginning their journey of Googling what narcissistic abuse is. That's why we do the show. Now, some of you have reached out to me and told me that you watch the show in 10-minute, 17-minute segments and back and forth, and sometimes you forget when you're at the middle of the show and then you got to start all over again. So we've devised this. So hold on, I've got something for you. And if you know who you are when I'm talking about this, some of you may not recognize this, but that you have this issue. So this is what we're going to do from here on out. I've already tested it on the last show with Raven, and now I'm going to institute it here when we're at the middle point of the show, or pretty much at that point, so that you can find that marker when you're watching the show and going back to it. Enough of me talking. You'll see this. Ta-da! So expect to see something when we're near the middle of the show or near a certain part of the show so that you can have a marker. Many of you have requested to be able to see something visual on screen so that you can fast forward to it or rewind back to it. So we're going to try to institute something regularly so you'll see something at that point. We have gone a total of 34 minutes in the show. At least that's what I'm looking at. 35 minutes. All right. To the point. You've been explaining everything so well. But reactive abuse, well, again, was huge. A lot of people said, oh, man, we want to know about that because they're just beginning their journey. It's a common phrase, those 2 words, reactive abuse. Shed some light for our audience.
Yeah. What's reactive abuse? So reactive abuse is when we react in a way that is explosive sometimes. And that is actually the bread and butter of an abuser. Because what they're doing systematically is breaking you down, systematically pushing your buttons. They're getting deep into your wounds. They know your wounds really well. If they've known you for an amount of time, they're like, I read this person like a book. I can say this, I can say that, I can do this, I can look at them this way, I can act this way, and I'm going to set them off.
Wow. Wow.
So over time, what is a person who is wounded by a person who's an abuser going to do? We're not just going to sit there. We're not just going to be hit and thrown at and broken down systematically. Eventually, we're going to fight back, because no human being, no animal, nothing alive is not going to fight back to protect themselves. It's a protective mechanism. We need to protect ourselves in one way or another. And what we do is actually explode, because we're like, how dare you treat me like this? I've tried really hard. I've done all of this. I've done as much as I can for you. I've tried to get a validation and acknowledgement from you. You might slam doors. You might yell. You might break something. You might throw something. I remember when I was a child, I would slam my door. I would throw pillows at my wall. I would scream and yell. And I would, throw my toys on the floor and things like that, because that was the only way I could respond to someone who would not listen to me. Then I would get told that I was an abusive child, that I was a bad, violent child who needed to be punished. What was I doing? I was reactively acting out of that situation. Now, my mum called that abuse. As we get into adulthood, we get into situations where we're with people and we feel that a certain button or a certain wound is being pressed. In day-to-day life. It might be with a friend, it might be with a colleague, it might be with a partner, it might be with our own child. And they push that wound, and what do? We respond in the same old way that they made us feel, because we're so triggered. And we're like, I can't not respond in another way. But it's not generally like it might be we grew up in a family dynamic where this happened all the time. And then we come across another abuser in life, like where say our boss is being abusive, and we respond like, how dare you say that to me? I'm so sick of this. I quit, or I'm done. And they're like, you're the abuser here. They turn it back on you. We do that with our parents. I slam my door, I yell at her, she turns around. She uses what the abuser does is use that reaction against you. And they use it against you to make you feel even smaller. So they might say things like, see, every time this happens, you do that. And every time we have this conversation, like we just can't seem to get through to each other, because you keep seeming to be breaking down. Or they might say, look, I'm just treading on eggshells. We can't have this conversation because you will yell at me, because blah, blah, blah. Well, why are you yelling at that person? Because maybe they're denying your reality. Maybe they're continuously, they're saying, no, no, no. Maybe they're denying, maybe they're diverting, maybe they're trivializing, maybe they're withholding and projecting. What are you going to do? You're going to cry. You're going to explode. You're going to be like, I don't know what to do. And you might yell at them and go, what's wrong with you? Like, why don't you just listen to me? And then they use that against you. And it's called reactive abuse, because what we're doing is exploding. But we're not really abusing them. We're not. We're responding to the situation that they have pushed onto us. And what we do is we internalize that, because they hold it against us. And we go, oh, okay, that actually confirms that I am the one in the wrong here, that I have been instigating, that I have been starting and continuing, perpetuating, and bringing up all of these patterns over and over again.
Flood in, and we start to think, okay, then I guess I'm wrong. And there you go. The abuser is off, as it were, scot-free.
Yeah, I
again,
do
from
this
being
all the
accountable.
time. Oh my God, I do this all the time. Oh, okay, I'm in the wrong. I'm going to stop. And that's what I did as a child. I went, oh, okay, so I'm a bad child. So that means I need to be more kind, more accepting,
More
more
good.
loving,
More good.
more good, better
Yeah.
child. Okay, I'll try harder. Tried harder, still wasn't good enough. Okay, try harder, still wasn't good enough. Push, push, push. Eventually, I got sick. It's like there's nothing left to give.
I mean,
You'll have nothing
how
in the
much
end.
good can a kid be, let alone an adult? So then that same child grows up and working for a boss or a mate, a mate. I'm talking like I'm Australian, a husband or whatever, or a literal mate for life. And now those, would you say wounds? You said it earlier. The wounds may get pushed or touched, and it's what we didn't take care of with our parent comes back.
Huge. Yeah.
And
And I have
now we got
clients.
reoccurring problems in relational problems and so forth.
Yeah. I have clients with these continuous problems that come to me. Their boss is asking too much of them and they're continuously giving it. Their partner is not giving them what they deserve. Like they're giving like 200%
Yeah,
of the
right, right.
relationship when there
Yeah,
should be, 100% each. And their friends,
yeah.
are really over demanding, overbearing, and don't even actually appreciate them or give them anything.
Any respect,
It's
nothing
like
like that.
all of
Yeah,
our relationships, it comes out, and we go, okay, well, maybe there's something wrong with me because I can't seem to keep a good relationship. I can't seem to get ahead at work. I can't seem to have the friendships that appreciate me and like treat me the way that I should be treated. So it perpetuates that internal feeling that there's
yeah.
something wrong with me.
You've been able to give us a strong overview of all 8 of these. The first one that we did in the first episode was counter. When it comes to gaslighting, the different aspects, the first one was counter, withhold, trivialization, denial, diversion. We talked about in this episode stereotyping, DARVO, as well as reactive abuse. I need to do something here, my friend. I thank you so much for doing these shows. Uh,
Thank you for having me.
you again, audience, as I said last time. By the way, yes, I'm going with the dark look this time here with the dimmed lights because she's such a bright person. I wanted the attention to be on her. We're going to get to some comments that are here on the screen in just a second. I'm going to put them back up, even though we've seen them before. But what I was going to say is there's so much more information that we're going to be covering. We're going to regroup again. The next show is going to be April 14th here in the States, April 15th in Australia, because you guys are a number of hours ahead of us, a day ahead of us. So April 14th will be the next show here in the U.S. and April 15th in Australia. Of course, keep notice of what we post on Twitter mainly, also on Instagram, and of course here on YouTube and LinkedIn.
Monty's
You'll
here too.
see when the shows are going to happen. Oh my goodness, no! Oh my goodness, hi, that was cool. You
He
snuck you.
Monty the Jack Russell. He's
He is the man.
needy
How
at the
cool he
moment.
is. Okay. So the glitch at the beginning of the show, I would love to blame it on my cat, but my cat didn't do it. It was all me. I would grab him, but he's around. Okay. We need to be prepared for next time. We should do show our pet. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
I need to get to the comments that are here on the screen. So, and then by the way, everybody feel free to stick around for the very last thing that will happen in this show. It's a video thanking you for being here. We will have those regularly at the end of every show that we do to the best of our ability. So feel free to hang around for that. A thank you video to you. I'm quite sure you will get a chance to enjoy it. But some things were happening in the chat while we were talking. Of course, of the refrain, hopefully you're still here. But we did highlight the fact that he mentioned that you are a superhero. Did you know that the world sees you here in the States as a superhero from Australia?
Oh, thanks,
You need to
guys.
get a
Well,
cartoon character that I can put here in my graphics so I can and do that.
my
Of the
mentor loves
refrain.
to say that your wounds become your superpowers. And I love
Ooh,
that saying because my wounds did become my superpowers,
yeah,
and yours can make you a superhero too.
yeah. When it comes to your wounds becoming a part of your being your superpower, becoming a part of your healing process in your journey, um, that means that you didn't run away from them, but you decided to address them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, really looking at yourself and going, oh God, all this stuff that I've dealt with. And it's scary when you first deal with it. But it is one of the most satisfying journeys in the world. And I wouldn't turn back for one moment, because it's made me more powerful than I could ever thought I would have been. I used to be the most anxious person, anxiety 24/7, didn't know how to stand up for myself, didn't know how to set boundaries, to the point where I've actually been able to hold my parent accountable and hold people accountable that didn't treat me right. And that gave me the power to heal myself and also stop self-sabotaging and understand my real identity, because that's what happens when you get abused. Over time, you lose a sense of real identity, who you really are, because their voice becomes part of your inner critic. And when you decide to let that go, and that's a hard thing, to start working on yourself, then you start to see who you really are. And you start to like that. Even the dark parts of yourself, you go, well, there's a good thing in that. Like my power in standing up for myself with my mother, I see that now as like, okay, I was doing the right thing. I was a powerful girl. And I knew there was something not quite right there. And I was doing what was needed. I don't see that as being a violent, naughty child anymore. I see that as me being, a child who knew what was going on, a child who had intuition. So we can turn those things around, and it takes some help sometimes. And that's why I'm here as a coach. I've done this for a long time. I've seen the patterns. I've worked with many people who have been in similar situations. And there's a process that there is to go through from where you are now to where you need to be. And I can help you with that. If you are interested, send me a DM.
Awesome. Of the refrain says, I lived in these scenarios, and yep, Sarah knows the whole long trip to isolation is the long game with these narcs.
Yeah, 100%.
You got some more love here on the screen. I just want to address this before we go here. We've got this one here. When Sarah laughs, that makes me happy. For real, I'm
lovely.
laughing. I don't even know why I'm just laughing.
Thank you.
That is a really cool statement. See, Sarah, the power you have. Thank you for being here as well. I appreciate it. Amber has passed through, or if she's still here, she says, yes, they do. Parents do this to their children. I don't know why I keep looking at that one. I'm looking at you, Sarah, but I have to do this because it's bigger over here. I can see it. Manipulation to control what they have no control over. That can truly happen.
That's exactly right.
Your thoughts?
Well, children are the easiest thing to control, easiest humans to manipulate, because they don't know any better. So unfortunately, I see it as a very weak thing to do. And I see parents who are quite narcissistic, who use their children as these pawns, are the weakest kinds, the most wounded, who see everything through the lens of their insecurities and have no other option but to use other people to their detriment, because they just don't have any other way of gaining power. It's like, I'm going to use my children because they don't know anything else. But then when their children become adults, they're apparently wrong and bad because now they're holding their parents accountable.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Love is being shown with one another.
Thank you,
the chat.
Amber.
We appreciate you guys supporting each other. They wreak havoc on the self-esteem. It does not happen overnight. It's methodical, gradual. Similar
And
to
they
the
don't
first
even
episode when you were talking
realize
about the silent treatment or withholding.
Yeah. They don't even realize that they're doing it most of the time. It's not like they're going, okay, well, now I'm going to withhold and now I'm going to do this. They just know that that's what works for them. Yeah, it does, because it's very, very like systematic. But when we know that, we're like, okay, I can see what's happening. But in their mind, it's just so like almost like a mini computer that goes, this is what works. I'm going to use that. And it does work if it's done over and over and over again. It's like the worst form of torture when repeated over time. They know that it works. So that's what they'll just keep doing until you're broken. That's why when you see it straight away or you see it early on, That's when you're like, okay, this is a red flag. I'm going to get out of here before I start to get stuck. Because what people don't realize is they do get stuck. You will get stuck in the cycle of abuse because they're very good at the love bombing and the hoovering and making you feel like you're amazing after all of the abuse. They'll make you feel amazing and good again. They'll say you're a good child. They'll say you're the best partner. They'll say, I appreciate everything you do. But then they go back to the abuse again. So you've got to pay attention.
Yeah. And not think that it's over. It's just going to repeat it. It's a part of the cycle. Them being nice to you, essentially, is what you're kind of saying.
And you feel guilty when they're nice to you, because you're like, oh, but they were so nice to me yesterday or the week before, and they told me I was such a nice person. So we hold on to that because our self-esteem isn't very strong. But what we need to hold on to is a very strong self-esteem for our own selves and our boundaries and our own self-worth. Because when that's strong, we go, no, I'm not accepting that. No, thank you.
Yeah. And that's actually a great statement you just said there. I'm not accepting that. No, thank you. To let them know that you're not going to take it anymore. Amber is here. Thank you, Amber, for saying
thank you, Amber.
Here. I thought you had
thank
left
you
already. Appreciate it. We appreciate everyone that gets a chance to watch this back later, of course, and those of you that are here right now. Amber, make sure you check her out on Instagram, Of the Refrain. Thank you so much. I love the messages that I received from you of the refrain. You said you got a coffee cup or two from our recovery store. I appreciate and of course, now you got to do it one more time. You got to do it one more time. Hey, I need something over here. The side swipe. I need something over here. There you go. That's from our show last year.
Healing from Narcissism.
Of Healing from Narcissism 2021.
Monty wants some.
And I am going to make sure to kidnap you again, my friend, for 2022. Yes. But thank you for doing this show, this series of shows that we will be doing together for the remainder of the year. You will see Sarah back numerous times. And I hate to keep boring you guys with this. You have no idea how much information that I've had to try to sit through that she has provided that we're going to turn into a show. Because that's what we do here. We take positive, informative, encouraging, and educational individuals who are willing to come on and do a show. For those of you out there who have reached out to us, many of you have told us that you're from the foster home system, that you are children of alcoholics or divorce. Many of you are finding this information for the first time. And so we are happy to present you with numerous amounts of individuals when we were on Instagram. And trust me, we have so many shows to give you up until December 1st. And we're constantly looking for others that fit our brand, which is to help you for free on this online TV platform called Narc Abuse TV Network. So thank you for joining us today and for all of your support and donations and what you've done. Now, when it comes to what we're going to talk about next time, we're not going to tell you. So we're not going to tell you, but it's going to be good. But you will enjoy it. Our next show will be again April 14th, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here. I'm in California, on the coast of California, and 10 a.m. in Sydney, where my dear, beautiful friend Sarah is. You will see her again soon.
Yes.
What we need to do, there's some more comments here. It just came in as I'm about to do something else. Let's just get that up. Oh, I can see that. Now I can see it. I'll look over here. The mugs add class to oh man, that's just wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Our mugs are anything that's in our merch store is taken care of by Boodle's Art Gallery. They're a custom place. You have to check them out on Instagram. Go to their page. They come up with stuff. I have no control over that. They come up with stuff that will be beneficial to and encouraging to you on your mental health journey. So enjoy them. And we got something else here. Do good, feel good. You two, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Feel great.
Thanks
That's
for being
very
here.
Sweet of you to say that. We want everyone to know that there's so much more coming your way. A number of shows coming your way. So much. I need to do this. Here we go. Let me get over here, and I'm going to put something up on the screen. And this is where Sarah gets to give us some helpful tips before we go. Before we go, Sarah, give us some helpful tips to help people with narcissism and gaslighting.
Yep. So did you want me to start talking now?
Yes, please. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sorry. I was waiting for the thing to come down. So some helpful tips are, I did mention this last session, but I want to bring it up again, that a really amazing way to counteract or deal with gaslighting is to use grey rock method. So if you were to imagine there was a grey rock in front of you, what does a grey rock do? Basically just sits there and does nothing, right? That's what we're going to do in these situations. Next time we notice someone keeps going, you know what, every time you do this, or you know what, that's your fault, or whatever it may be, what they're trying to do is get the reactive abuse out of us. They want us to respond, because then they can use that against us later on. So what we have to do is act like a grey rock and not respond. We'll say things like, okay, or yes, or no, or okay, I'm going to go now, or thanks for letting me know, or something like that that's just really empty, but it also ends the conversation and shows them that we're not going to engage. Things that might make things worse are not advised. When a grey rock doesn't say, you know, I hate you, or a grey rock doesn't say you're a narcissist or an abuser. A grey rock doesn't say, no, you were the problem and I'm not dealing with this and I'm leaving you now. A grey rock just diffuses the situation because there's high energy and tension in that moment. What we need to do is get rid of that. So we can walk away. We can sit there. We can stay there. Say we're in a public situation. We're at dinner, for example. We're out to dinner. We can't really walk away from this person, because then we'll look a bit silly. Like we're starting a fight and people are going to look at us and we're being over dramatic, as they would say, when we actually feel like it's warranted. We just go, okay, that's totally fine. And I would like to continue dinner without talking about that anymore, if that's okay with you. And then, when dinner's over, you can do whatever you like. So it's like, or you can even say something like, I would like to finish dinner now, if that's okay with you. But we're just going to be really, really kind, nice, and low key. Just get out of that situation as fast as possible. What they want is your reaction. So don't react. Keep yourself grounded in reality. And that means to remember what DARVO is. And like I said, when our emotion increases, our intelligence decreases. So we're unable to be logical. But if you can try and remember something as simple as DARVO, grey rock, those two things, remember that they're denying, they're attacking me, and then they're reversing offender, and maybe they'll even discard me afterwards. This has nothing to do with me. Remember that it has nothing to do with you, and it's about them trying to gain a sense of control out of the situation. When we understand that that's what they're trying to do, we can walk away and go, I'm not going to take that on board as something about me. I'm not going to take that on board that I was a bad person or I did something wrong or whatever it was, because there's situations where I know I've done wrong. I know I've made a mistake and I've fixed it. But in this situation, they're literally just trying to make me feel bad, or they're just trying to bring me down, or they're just trying to make me seem a certain way so they can have whatever they want out of it. So we stay grounded in reality and remind ourselves what they're doing. It's hard to do that in that situation. It's hard to go, I'm not going to react. It's hard to go, this is not affecting my emotions right now. Really, really hard. But as long as you keep breathing and then get out of that situation, go write it down. Go talk to your therapist. Go, write a comment on one of my posts, and if it relates to something that I'm talking about, and say, this happened to me, because I'm there reading those comments. And, more of that just reiterates and reinforces to other people that this is a very common thing, that you're not alone in this situation. And a lot of people want to know that they're not alone because they feel like they're alone. They feel like they're the only person experiencing this. They feel like this is not quite right. And maybe I should be taking this, but I don't know. So if you can talk to people about it, you can realize and you can see that other people are experiencing this. They didn't take it, so I'm not going to either.
Yeah, because I agree with you. From what I'm hearing through the shows that we've done the past 2 years, a number of people can feel like it's only happening to me, or why is this just happening to me, or only happening to me. Yeah. But even the comment that's on the screen from Of the Refrain says, for sure, my narc let me turn over here with my old eyes. For sure, my narc used to hammer me when I could not escape.
Yeah.
Like in the car or right before she headed out to work.
Yes,
Tight
yes. They know
spaces
you
with
can't walk
narcs
away.
are dangerous, is what he says.
Yeah, that's the worst. Because they know you can't walk away from them. They're like, I'm going to get you now. And I'm going to try and get you to reactively respond, because then I can hold it against you and I can say you're a bad person. Yeah. Especially like, oh, if you're about to go out go out with friends or something like that. They're like, you're going out for drinks with a friend, and they're like, I can't believe you're doing that. And you're like, what? We just agreed before that I was going out for dinner with my friends. And they're like, you know what? The way you spoke to me before was not on. And I don't think you should be going out now. I just don't agree with this. And that friend you go out with, I don't know about them either. So you start to feel like really insecure. Should I be going out? Are they going to be angry at me when I get home? Am I going to be treading on eggshells? Am I going to have to message them every 5 minutes and make sure they're okay? Behavior like that's not on.
We